Welcome to The Explainer. So today we are looking at something honestly incredibly fascinating. We aren't just reading a news report here. We're analyzing a raw, unfiltered snapshot of exactly what millions of people around the world are clicking on to understand their own global anxieties. If you want to know what the world is worried about right now, you don't look at a crystal ball. You look at the internet's trending dashboard. And today, we're decoding that digital geopolitical zeitgeist directly through the data of what we're all watching.
Okay, let's dive into this. Over 31,800,000. That is a massive, staggering number. And what does it represent? Well, it represents the cumulative views of just a handful of the recent trending geopolitical topics we're examining today. We're talking about millions upon millions of people dedicating their free time to content about global tension, economic collapse, and technological anxiety. This isn't just some niche interest, right? This is an intense, global focus. It shows us that people are actively seeking answers to some incredibly complex, scary questions.
To help make sense of all this data, we're going to neatly sort the chaos into 5 clear thematic buckets. We'll start with the digital geopolitical landscape, move into the US-China superpower rivalry, tackle economic and currency anxieties, crack open the AI and tech bubbles, and finally look at global resource flashpoints.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the digital geopolitical landscape, a meta-analysis.
Think of our source material today as a high-level dashboard review of what the world is currently worrying about online. There's one specific anchor topic that perfectly encapsulates the mood of this landscape, originally posted by ZemTV. The title? China versus America, Dongle Shuru. Now, for those who might not know, Dongle Shuru roughly translates to "the fight begins." And that phrasing is absolutely critical. It isn't framed as some slow, boring, diplomatic negotiation, It's framed as a wrestling match, a literal brawl. This captures the exact overarching mood of superpower tension that audiences are just gravitating toward right now. It's dramatic, the stakes are sky high, and it frames geopolitics as this ultimate heavyweight championship.
Let's move to Section 2 and see how this builds. US-China superpower rivalry, conflicting narratives.
There's a totally fascinating contrast in how different superpowers are being portrayed in digital media right now. On one side, you have a narrative pulling in over 1 million views declaring China quietly saved the world last month. The storyline here really leans into an image of quiet, stabilizing global competency. But right next to it, contrast that with the domestic anxieties surrounding American leadership. We see a major interview featuring Tucker Carlson titled "He's Weak," Tucker Carlson on how Trump failed America. What we're observing here, strictly as impartial analysts, isn't necessarily objective truth, but rather how digital narratives are actively being consumed and pitted against each other. Audiences are simultaneously digesting stories of a rising, stabilizing China alongside intense, critical anxieties about perceived weakness in American political leadership.
Now let's shift gears to Section 3, Economic and Currency Anxieties, the Macroeconomic Fears.
Because let's face it, these political tensions don't exist in a vacuum, do they? They bleed directly into our wallets. The sheer data-driven urgency of these economic fears is wild. Now, what's really interesting about this is how a single topic on India's economy being in danger and the rupee collapsing grabbed a staggering 8.7 million views, and it did that in just 6 days. That represents a massive, palpable anxiety among the public about localized economic collapse and currency devaluation. Meanwhile, on a global scale, content analyzing the price of gold and China's market maneuvers are also pulling in hundreds of thousands of views in a matter of hours. The speed at which this content is consumed tells us exactly how urgent these macroeconomic fears are to the everyday viewer.
Just listen to the specific language being used in these highly clicked titles. We're seeing things like "America panics as China cancels gold trading," or "The day China reveals gold's real price." Again, as analysts of these trends, we are neutrally framing these as massive digital narratives. We aren't here to endorse the claims that America is literally panicking or that gold trading is inherently manipulated in this exact way. But what we absolutely can say for sure is that the internet is hyper-focused on this idea. The audience is completely captivated by this narrative of economic warfare, where gold is the weapon and financial panic is the outcome.
Which brings us to Section 4, the AI and tech bubbles, cracks in the system. Moving from the physical economy over to the digital one, online commentary is loudly predicting massive fallout. Let's actually trace the chronological timeline of this tech skepticism because it's been building incredibly fast. Just 2 weeks ago, content attacking the reputation of one of tech's biggest titans, claiming Elon Musk fooled everyone, just exploded online. A couple of days later, the narrative shifted from personal skepticism to systemic skepticism, with the idea of a dirty AI lie gaining massive traction. And then, literally just a day after that, the geopolitical angle merged perfectly with the tech angle in a narrative predicting that China is about to pop the AI bubble. We're seeing a real-time, step-by-step documentation of the internet really souring on the utopian promises of big tech.
And the sheer scale of that skepticism is mind-blowing. Let's break down this multi-million view narrative. Over 7.7 million people engaged with that critique of Musk, 2.6 million tuned in to hear about the dirty AI lie, exploring how the greatest technological bet in human history might actually be cracking. Another 1.6 million are watching to see if a geopolitical rival will be the one to pop that bubble. It turns out, the idea that the tech industry is just a giant house of cards isn't some fringe theory anymore. It's become mainstream media consumption for millions of focused learners and everyday internet users alike.
But this tech anxiety isn't just about stock prices or corporate bubbles, it's about real-world stakes. There's a prominent discussion out there titled National Emergency, unchecked fakery risking lives and killing reputation that hits the nail on the head. The digital fakery enabled by these new technologies is being viewed online not just as an annoying nuisance, but as a literal, life-threatening national emergency. The virtual world is fundamentally beginning to break the physical world's trust, and audiences are acutely, painfully aware of the danger.
All right, let's wrap up with Section 5, Global Resource Flashpoints, the Physical Battlegrounds. So, the crucial point here is how all of these digital anxieties, the political rivalries, the economic fears, the tech panic, ultimately map directly onto physical, tangible global resources. When we break down the specific resources at stake across different regions, a really clear mini-narrative emerges. It's all about control. In Greenland, millions are watching content explaining why America, Russia, and China are vying for icy territory and untapped resources. Over in the Middle East, the focus is heavily on how conflicts in Iran are rewiring the entire global oil market. In Asia, it's about life's most basic necessity, water. People are hyper-focused on how a single dam built by China could ignite conflict with India and Bangladesh. And in Europe, the focus shifts to logistics, specifically why Greece dominates the physical shipping of all these goods. Whether it's territory, oil, water, or shipping lanes, the digital sphere is completely fixated on who controls the physical mechanisms of global survival.
Let's synthesize everything we've learned today by circling back to that word we started with, Dungal, the fight. In our modern digital zeitgeist, the narrative of superpower rivalry has completely evolved. It extends far, far beyond traditional military conflict. The new Dungal is a multi-front war fought over currency devaluation, artificial intelligence dominance, narrative control, and access to raw physical materials. And honestly, it seems this is the defining narrative of our time simply because it is exactly what tens of millions of people are choosing to learn about every single day.
Which leaves us with a final, vital question to ponder. As these digital narratives increasingly predict economic doomsday, AI deception, and inevitable resource wars, how are these multi-million view trends shaping our actual geopolitical reality? Do they merely reflect our anxieties, or do they actively create the very panic and division they report on? The next time you click on a trending global headline, ask yourself, are you just watching the fight, or are you becoming a part of it? Keep learning, keep questioning, and thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.